However, we don't have any today. What I would like to do is go around the room and have everybody introduce themselves so that we all know each other. We're going to be meeting each other for the next 11 months. So it's good that we have a nice working relationship. So like I said, I'm Mark O'Hara. I represent South County. I live in St. Petersburg, and I will be your chairman this year.
Okay. Welcome, everybody, to PSTA. My name is Brad Miller. I am the CEO of PSTA, and as much as I possibly can be, a fellow rider of yours on mainly the Route 4, because I, too, live in St. Petersburg. Thank you very, very much for volunteering to serve in this capacity. I know it's very important to me that we always hear the viewpoint of our customers, people that use our transit services, that we're trying to make as best as we can. And I know specifically that our board, the board of directors that I report to, which are elected officials from around Pinellas County, very much also care. That's why Mark, your chair, has a monthly spot on our agenda to report what you decided this meeting here today directly to the PSTA board, and they very much value hearing from you as well. So welcome.
Thank you. My name is Elizabeth, and this is my third or fourth year, and I enjoy riding the bus. I love it. I get my chair up there and make friends and get to know the drivers, and I love the drivers. I have such a good experience riding these buses, and I would rather take the bus, and I avoid the van as much as I can because the bus takes me where I need to go, which is not very far, but it's what I need. So I enjoy PSTA. Thank you.
Elizabeth didn't forget to add, she's also our vice chair this year.
Oh, yes, vice chair. Thank you.
My name is Brian. This is my first meeting here. I am currently an employee at Bay Pines VA. I've been there for almost 5 years. I'm retired naval reservist, 23 years retired. I use the bus and I ride my bicycle and I go to Bay Pines using the PSTA bus, and I'm very privileged to be here to be a part of this meeting. That's all I have. Thank you.
Great.
I'm Camille, and I live downtown and take the Central Avenue trolley mostly to the beaches where I do work, and also around downtown, a little looper, and kind of work as an ambassador for public transportation because so many folks down there are not very enlightened about the buses.
I'm Dave Kovar. I live in Safety Harbor. This is kind of an interesting year for me. I've been on the board now for 2 years. I'm retired, and I'm a very ad hoc user. I go on a different bus each time. I never take the same bus twice. If you follow me on Facebook, I now socially go by the name Duncan, so if you follow that. Also, this year I may be relocating to South County, so I don't know how that'll affect us. We're going to change and move down there. Yeah, I love PSTA, and it's an honor and a privilege to be here. And I do a lot of stuff as an ambassador to try and get other folks on this committee. And whenever I'm on a bus, I ask folks, why are you here? What do you take? What do you like? What do you hate? You know, whether if I'm on by myself, I talk to the driver. I can't help it.
I'm Javante. This is my first time being on this committee. I'm very privileged, and I appreciate whoever voted for me to be on this committee, so thank you. I work for the YMCA with kids after school program, and this August will be my 12th year being a passenger for PSTA. I currently take almost all the routes. Throughout my years, I've been, I think, on all of them. So I gotta know where every stop is and things like that. And I take my bike and know most of the drivers because, you know, build up a relationship with them. And I think that's a good thing in regards to being a passenger. You get to build up relationships with drivers and other passengers as well. So I appreciate being on this committee.
My name is Ken. I'm currently unemployed, staying at Pinellas Hope. I ride a bike and a bus. Take a lot of different routes, whether for medical appointments or job interviews. I've lived in 36 of the states and have taken buses in about all of them. So I'm very familiar with the routines and schedules, and I really appreciate having a chance to have input. Thank you.
I'm Ed. I've been riding the bus for, I don't know, several years now. I live in St. Pete, outlying area by 5 towns. Ride the buses, primary route 75 to wherever. 18 if I have to walk down to Target instead, because of 75 sometimes it's a little too early for me.
My name is Renee. I've been riding the buses for about 20-something years, and I've been on the committee for this is my 2nd year, and I enjoy it.
I'm Chelsea. I've been in St. Pete for about 1.5 years and riding the bus the whole time. I came from Chicago, where I also rode the bus and the train. Anyway, yeah, I work at one of the local synagogues, and I ride the bus. I take the 5 like constantly, and I'm on the 4 pretty regularly too. So say hi if you see me, I guess.
My name's Tim. I represent South County, and I live in St. Petersburg. This is my 2nd year on the committee. I've only been in Pinellas for a couple of years, but I've always been impressed with how accessible and enjoyable the system is here. And it's just really exciting to be part of this committee to try and keep it strong and make it better, because I really appreciate the availability of mass transit here. It just makes life a lot easier, a lot better.
I'm Sue Keating. I represent Mid-County. This is my 2nd year on the committee. I'm a St. Petersburg resident of 41 years, so I've seen a lot of things come and go during that time, and it's very exciting to see what PSTA, how they've evolved to the needs of the people, to the needs of St. Pete, which has evolved immensely in 41 years. And it's great being here. I love keeping my ear to the rail and find out what's coming down the pipe and new things and everything. It's exciting, and I really enjoy being here.
Okay, I'm Debbie Bjorquist, and I represent North County, and I take the bus every day. That's my only way of transportation. I've been taking mass transit for 40 years, so train, bus, and I love it. I really do. I mean, how nice is it to get up in the morning and take a bus and think the driving is somebody else?
Good afternoon. I'm Cassandra Borchers. I'm the Chief Development Officer at PSTA. We, in my department, will be supporting you and this committee's work, so we're excited about that. As usual, we would love to hear what you have to say about the things that we are working on in the planning department, and bring you other things throughout the agency. So if you have other questions and things like that, we'll bring you presentations about how other parts of the agency work. But for the most part, we'll bring you items that are going to the board, and we'll discuss those with you, get your recommendation, which we then report to the board as part of the action item that goes to them. I'm going to let you get to know the rest of the people in the room, because they represent a number of departments around the agency, because we do have a lot of interest in making sure that we all know what our riders are saying about our initiatives.
Hi, my name is Clarissa Affeld. I'm an administrative assistant in the executive office.
I'm Marianne Sobosinski. I'm the TRAC coordinator, and I'm also the administrative assistant for the planning department, and I enjoy this role here.
Heather Sobush from the planning department.
I'm Leon, and I'm the public engagement planner for the planning department.
Hi everyone, I'm Nicole Dufa. I'm also a public engagement planner. I'm also an avid transit user. I ride the 52 almost every day to come to work.
Hi, I'm Whitney Fox. I'm the public relations manager. I started at PSTA 3 months ago. This is my first TRAC meeting, and I just want to say thank you so much for your input and for volunteering. I'm excited to hear stories from all of you.
Good afternoon. My name is Isabella Sobel. I'm with the law firm of Bryant Miller Olive, and I primarily work with Alan Zemet, who serves as the general counsel for PSTA. And I love my job. I love living in St. Petersburg. I lived there for at least 8 years at this point, downtown. And I'm happy to be here with you all today.
Hello, I'm AJ Ortiz. I'm with the Safety, Security, and Training Department of PSTA.
Hello, my name is Craig Daniels. I'm Superintendent of Transportation.
Hi, and I'm Debbie Leas. I'm the Chief Financial Officer here. So a lot of decisions you make affect positively or negatively the bottom line. So you'll hear from me from time to time.
And I'm Jake Lebutka. I'm a project planner here at PSTA and a proud St. Pete resident.
All right, well, thank you all. We're very welcome and lucky to have so many avid transit riders on this committee. The next item on the agenda is the chair's report. This is normally where I'll bring you an update of what happened at the monthly board meeting. The last board meeting was held in early December, so it seems like a lifetime ago. And also, if I encounter anything else with transit that I would like to bring forward to the board. So the only thing that I'm going to bring forward this time, I have 4 things. First, the Healthy Hop program is taking off in Tarpon Springs to assist some of our older residents with getting to doctor's appointments. And we're having much success. I think I've heard that there are up to 12 people who have subscribed to the Healthy Hop program. There was discussion about a memorandum of understanding between PSTA and HART, working together on some more projects, and also the scorecard coming out of the HR department here at PSTA, rating the effectiveness of the organization as a whole and how well it's serving the customers and the citizens and visitors to Pinellas County. And the only other thing I would add is that over the Christmas holiday, I did get to ride the subway in Buffalo with a lot of Sabres fans after a victorious game. All right, so we will move now on to our Forward Pinellas report. Dave Kohler, for those of you who are new here, Dave is our representative on the Forward Pinellas transit. Their version of TRAC is the best way I could describe it.
Exactly. So just like our board for PSTA has the Forward Pinellas, those of you who don't know about Forward Pinellas, many counties would call it the MPO, the Master Planning Organization, and the PPO. So they deal with zoning and all of that, and all of the construction projects. Here in Pinellas, we merged the two and then rebranded it Forward Pinellas. Transit rolls up into that. They have a board with councilmen and mayors, and then just like us, we have one for citizens. I serve on that board just like I do here, and I'm the one who every time says, wait, what does that apply to transit? You know, I get to be the grubach every time they talk about it. Interestingly enough, as I sit through those meetings, their meetings are usually after ours, but because of Christmas, it followed right on Thanksgiving and Christmas. They had it 6 weeks ago. 1/3 of the presentations I sit through over there are from PSTA because that's one of the legs. So everything we see here, I turn around and see again over there. A lot of what we cover is about all of the construction, whether it's the Pinellas Trail, streets, curbs, alleys, whatever. And again, I'd invite all of you to come and join either through the board or to come through the CAC, the Citizen Advisory Committee. Just even come once to know how every dit and dot, they have a 400-page Excel spreadsheet rating every project, who's involved. They do that at the county level so that Lealman isn't stepping out of Tarpon, that they're able to get community, this is for the new people, purchasing, and that the crews are working in, especially where you have a road that crosses several towns or unincorporated county. So those presentations are a little dry, but it's a comfort to know that they're doing them. The second thing we saw in December was a presentation I saw a couple places about Lealman. Lealman is having a big upgrade into complete streets, finishing their sidewalks and their stop signs and their pedestrian and bike routes and all of that. We're seeing several of these complete street projects, one in Dunedin, one in Largo, the whole MLK up and down 4th Avenue. And so Lealman is next. This is East Lealman, the part that has the community redevelopment tax grants area. And then the only other thing we did, just because it was December, we did new officers just like we did here. And it was the same situation. I didn't realize, but folks had been there a long time, so there was a lot of tears and all of that, just like we did here. And that's what we did in December. Thank you, everybody.
All right, thanks, Dave. All right, so we'll move on to our first of 3 action items, which will require a vote from the committee. The first action item is going to be the meeting minutes from the month of November. Everybody should have had the minutes emailed to them, or they have a paper copy in front of them now. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? And are there any additions or amendments that need to be made? Okay, so now I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Make a motion.
We have a motion from Tim.
I'll second.
And second by Sue. All right, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, the motion carries. All right, so next we're going to move on to the bus and paratransit adjustments for 2019. It's going to be a very important presentation, so if everybody can just give everybody your attention.
And I'll go ahead and kick it off. Again, the way that PSTA ultimately makes decisions is that anything that is related to the bus services or any of the services that PSTA provides first comes before your committee. You're the first stop. And we very much want you to provide input to this, because from here, we will take this presentation and we will present it to different committees of our board, and then ultimately the board will get to usually votes on it. In this case, this is a very important presentation related to the funding that we have or don't have related to funding the routes in the future. And in this case, really, although we're going to take this to the PSTA board, the board that I report to, it's more important that we present this information and your feedback on it to the county commission, the Pinellas County Commission. And this Friday, there is a meeting, a big workshop that we're going to present a version of this to, that the county commission and the PSTA board and mayors from all around the county are going to be present at. So Heather Sobush, who's in our planning department, is going to present to you sort of the facts as we know them now, which is that we are we don't have enough funding in the way we are funded to maintain the service level that we have today, that all the bus routes that we have today, and we're going to unfortunately have to seek to reduce our service, to reduce the number of routes. But I'm very hopeful that if we present this in the right manner starting on Friday, that maybe we can get some additional funding so that we can maintain the routes and maybe even grow the system and make it even better, having the buses come more frequently. So I've given Heather half of her presentation. She can go down.
I have, but not in this fine of order. So yes, I'm Heather Sobush. I am the Director of Planning, and I have spent pretty much the last year of my life working a lot on this community bus plan. And we go through this effort of kind of updating this bus plan every 5 years, which gives us an opportunity to survey all of our riders, which was, some of you probably remember that from last March. And that survey helps us understand where people are going to and from, which routes they're transferring between, and other information about our riders. It also allows us to analyze a lot of data that we collect here at PSTA about ridership and about on-time performance, and also all the public comments we receive, and then to develop recommendations on how we could improve our bus network and our bus system. So actually Dave mentioned it, we work closely with the Metropolitan Planning Organization, and what we do as part of this planning process gets fed into their 25-year long-range transportation plan that includes all modes of transportation. So it is very important to them as well, and although this is focused on pretty much the next 5 to 10 years, it also gives us the opportunity and a launching point for developing a vision plan for that longer-term 25-year period. So I know I just heard a lot of you are new, but I did have presented this to this committee before, and the concept behind this bus plan is that, well, we've developed multiple scenarios, but that we would perhaps take some resources from our lowest performing routes and then reinvest them into our higher performing routes. And then those higher performing routes would have more frequency and would likely allow current riders to make more trips, and would also allow new riders to use our services. So this is exactly what other systems across the country have been doing, and nationwide there's been some ridership decline trends, but those that have seen increases have kind of followed through with this concept. And there's two ways you can achieve this. You can achieve it, one, by cutting low performing routes like I just mentioned. In our system, what we're learning from the bus plan is that you have to cut quite a few routes in order to really improve even just 2 to 3 of our core routes. Or you can do this by finding additional funding resources so that you can, and then just investing those resources in your highest performing routes and kind of leaving some of that coverage network. So, so that's kind of the premise behind this presentation and our planning efforts. Unfortunately, right now, as Brad mentioned, our existing budget is showing deficits. Now, we, over the past few years, have adopted operating budgets that have deficits, but we've managed to find savings in our agency that didn't require service cuts and that allowed us to come in within budget in each calendar year or fiscal year. So we're about a quarter into fiscal year 2019, and we're not seeing those savings. So now we're seeing a deficit here in 2019 of almost $2 million. So we're looking at how would we either find those savings in our organization or through service cuts. And so we've pretty much been cutting internally, finding those savings, not service, over the past probably about 10 years. And this is a series of, all these letters represent transit agencies, other bus agencies primarily. And so of all of these transit agencies, we are the most efficient. So we provide more service for the dollars we have, almost double than this one over here on the right, which costs a lot more to operate. So that's good, but unfortunately we're also not funded very well. So we are the bottom of the funding scenario. So these are kind of some peer communities, not just transit agencies, but they're counties and communities with similar ridership or similar similar population for the most part. And we are funded down here. Hillsborough County passed a sales tax ballot initiative in November, and so they're going to triple their funding. Indianapolis actually passed an income tax, which I find very interesting, and so they are going to be greatly expanding. And then Broward County, which includes Fort Lauderdale, also passed a sales tax initiative and will be kind of moving up on the list. So we're showing all of this. This is pretty much the same presentation I've been showing all of the committees to let our board members know kind of just the truth about the situation we're in. So we've developed 3 scenarios. One is this service cut scenario, and this includes cuts to a little bit of cuts to paratransit, and then also a few routes, and I'll get into that a little bit later. In this scenario, we've just cut what we need to cut today for this year. It doesn't really help. It keeps us stable for a couple of years, but we'd have to make more cuts in about 3 years. Option 2, and this is between 5 and 15 million of recurring funding, and there are some potential sources available in that range that the county commission can approve. So that's why that one's kind of in that range. This allows us at the low end to maintain the services we provide today, but not make any new improvements, not match any grants we might get. And then at the higher end, it would allow us to start making a few improvements. Maybe a couple of the core routes doing something like we did on the 52, doing a couple more LXs, regional service, a Clearwater Beach to Airport route, and then also just to give us that match funding. FDOT right now is prepared to give us some grant funding to operate express bus service in the shoulder on I-275 and to improve the 100X. And right now we don't have the match funding to accept their dollars. So, we really just need that extra bit of money to do some of those things. And then option 3, this is talking more sales tax territory, and this is a lot more funding. This is on the level of Hillsborough and what these other communities get. Would allow us to provide the transit service that we constantly hear from riders and even non-riders that people want to see. It would allow us to increase frequency, not just on those core routes like the 52 or the 60, but also getting into things potentially like the 78 on Main Street or Park Boulevard and some of those routes that aren't our highest ridership but are still pretty good. And then the other things we hear like evening and weekend service. So in the cut scenario, right now we provide paratransit service, so the door-to-door DART, to a couple areas that used to have fixed route bus service, and when we cut those routes out of them, like Shore Acres, we just still continue to provide the DART service. Same with North County, we cut some service out of there, but we still provide DART service. That would give us some savings, but probably in the tune of more like $100,000, so not fixing the problem. And then the bus service, this is one scenario, and again, no decisions have been made, but these are some of our lowest performing routes. We have the Safety Harbor connector. We've tried different services in Safety Harbor. We had the Route 67 through there before, and we just can't seem to get decent ridership there. The Route 58, which is on Bryan Dairy Road, and is right now the only direct service to SPC Seminole. Route 22. These two have kind of been on the low ridership end for a while. Now we start to get up here a little bit deeper. So we have the Route 5 and Route 16. The Route 5, the eastern portion between Grand Central and downtown does very, very well. Very high productivity. But west of Grand Central starts to drop off. And perhaps you see that when you ride it. But it's still not a bad route. It's like still something we wouldn't ideally want to do. And then Route 16, north of 38th Avenue, we start to see ridership drop off. And so we would reroute the Route 38, take it off of Beach. I always mix up the road, I think it's Beach. And then make it, Route 38, go south on 16th down into downtown. So that's what we have out there right now as possible service cuts, and this is what we're asking. We're going to be asking the board to authorize us to start to hold public hearings to get public comment on these proposed cuts. Again, that is if no new funding can be identified. The other side of this, we don't want to make those cuts. It makes me sad. I've been working on the bus plan for the past year. We want to improve routes. We want to improve service. We want to get more riders. But we also know, and most importantly, that our riders today really could use better service. We're always told we need more frequency, we need more evening service, and we need more weekend service. Our non-riders, people that say they'd like to ride the service for certain things, would like service to the airport, better regional service. And then our cities are often coming to us. The city of Gulfport, the city of Seminole, Dunedin, and asking us for more trolley service. Like they would like the Jolly Trolley Coastal to run every 30 minutes. They would like a trolley between St. Pete Beach and Seminole City Center. So we're getting these requests all the time, and we always have to say no because we don't have that additional funding to do more than what we're doing today. So, so today I think what we're asking of you all is for you to recommend to the board that if we need to, that we would hold public hearings and start talking to the public about these potential service cuts and then bring back those comments to our board. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Before we go forward with any questions, I just wanted to let you know that there is a meeting coming up this Friday where this, like Brad had said, this will be presented to members of the county commission and other people in Pinellas County, and I will be representing the riders of Pinellas County, trying to advocate for the funds to keep our system as it is, at least, because we would all like to see it grow. I mean, look at the list of cities that are saying they want more service, and we have to say the cupboard's bare. With that, I'll open up to any questions.
I've got one because two of them on that one are the only public transportation to St. Pete College, 5 for the Gibbs campus, although you do have the 79 coming through, so that's not so bad. 58 is especially bad because I was a few years ago out, you were also there, Brad, this public whatever presentation of the penny for Pinellas, not penny for the go, whatever it was, I can't remember the name, but and that's even more important because it's really the only public transportation within a reasonable distance. At least there's a 79 for Gibbs, even though it's kind of off to the side.
So do you have any thoughts on why the Route 58 that does seemingly like it should do better? Even though it's very limited service already, it doesn't, it's at least more than every hour.
I don't know if there really isn't a need on most of the students, faculty, whatever, but maybe some more interaction on the campuses promoting, I don't know. Like the beginning of the semesters, they have tables out and introducing various things to the students, banks and a lot of different things, and maybe if we're not already there, we really should try to promote it on those type of events.
I have a comment. I travel a lot to Dunedin, to Mediterranean Manors, which is out on off of Bayshore Boulevard. And, you know, besides the 66L, which only goes 3 times, you know, twice in the morning and 1 at night, I take the Jolly Trolley. But I know in Mediterranean Manors, it's open to everybody, but there's a lot of elderly there. And, you know, nobody knows about the bus. They have a bus stop right in front of the entrance, and nobody knows about it. Nobody talks about it. Nobody even mentions it. You know, and you see everybody getting rides with somebody else, and they just don't know about it. And I don't know whether they've got a community center in there that you can, you know, maybe come by and explain the bus. Because there's a lot of people in there. There's 3 different condo associations in the building, right in that complex. There's like 400 or 500. And, yep, nobody knows about it. Nobody uses it. And I know nobody takes the bus because I'm always there by myself.
Which route is that you ride?
I do I actually it's the 66L in the morning, or I have to take the Jolly Trolley. I mean the Coastal Trolley.
So you don't use the connector at all?
No.
Okay.
But, you know, and it stops right in front of the entrance to Mediterranean Manors, and, you know.
Yeah, nobody gets on it,
And
nobody, yeah.
No. I mean, they redid the whole area so that, you know, it's lighted and lit and everything else, and nobody uses it, and nobody even mentions it. So I don't know.
We can certainly put that on our list to do some additional outreach there, for sure.
Yeah. And one of the items that we're going to be addressing later on in our agenda is going to be how us in this room, the riders ourselves, can become ambassadors and push forward. So, you know, it's great that we're talking about this. It's like it's wonderful that we almost all have the same idea. Like, how do we outreach? How do we outreach? And I think it's going to be time for right now. It might be time for us to take the matter into our own hands. We'll get to that in a few minutes. You know, the only other recommendation I had written down earlier, and I forgot to mention it, was that some of you were on this board a few years ago. We did the letter writing campaign promoting safety. And it might be time to, you know, we reached out to the NPO, we reached out to, I think, the county commission, we were talking about this earlier, and we told them about the need for safety for the riders getting on and off buses. So many bus stops are just on the side of the road, and you're as close to traffic as I am to the bottle of water. And, you know, it can be dangerous, and because of our actions, we started to see changes around the county. So it might be time for us to consider doing a joint letter as a board, as a committee, saying, you know, to the Pinellas County Commission, saying, you need to fund us, please.
Well, and I think another point totally along those lines is it's our county's transportation system, and it's our county's transit system. It's not just PSTA over here. And so we're trying to kind of keep that message out there.
Yes.
Just a quick comment, because I see the 22 on there, and I ride that occasionally. I know I'm the only person on it.
There's one guy.
So I don't know, part of what I really like about TRAC is like talking to my neighbors about why they aren't riding the bus, you know? And it is really satisfying when you can get some of them, you know, see some ridership, because I think it's really underutilized. But what they say about the 22 is oftentimes for work. You know, people who work at the mall at Tyrone, because it runs from the old Northeast over to Tyrone, and it's only every hour. So it just doesn't work for the work schedule.
Right.
So, you know, the answer I get a lot is, well, if it was every half hour, maybe, you know, maybe then it. So I know this isn't the environment where you can, you know, invest in a lightly traveled route. You know, that's sort of what I see is that you need a critical mass, which you know, comes easier if there's frequency.
And to keep the frequency, we need.
Right, but you can't, you know, obviously you're constrained on investing in that.
Well, and even matching mall hours, which we've heard before too, and that's getting more dollars into that evening service. You know, but again, just can't do that in today's environment.
Anybody else? Dave?
Well, with all of these cities that are advocating, boy, we wish we had better service. I happen to live in Safety Harbor, so I would hate to lose my Safety Harbor connector. Do we know around the country that there is a system for reaching out to non-riders, especially if you start thinking of having, like, is the route in the right place? Here we have one that stops right in front of the place. How come those guys aren't using it? But I know, again, I mentioned this before, now Ruth Eckerd Hall has put in a bus-compatible driveway that turns right into a giant tower full of old folks that all use either Care Ride or drive themselves. Where are they going? If they had a bus, how often would it need to run? There's got to be somewhere out somewhere, Palo Alto or Denver or Phoenix, that has had experience going after people, not just marketing like, hey, we got a bus, you should take it, but how and what and where do we go, and not just how many people are on this route and how many people. When we talk about marketing, you know,
Right.
when I was selling widgets, it's not just to say, who bought a widget? How old are you? Or I got a widget, is it the right size? There's somehow something more organic, and that's what I would like to see us do. Especially if we could go to the mayor of Tarpon, Oldsmar, Seminole, Gulfport and say, we'd like you to give us $5,000 or $20,000 to go do this program that we know works. And by the way, if we can get folks to say, oh, well, if the bus ran on this street instead of that one, we'll have ridership, we'll cut down your parking, we'll bring restaurant people here because we know this program works. And you want buses. That's this. I just think someone somewhere knows how to do that beyond knocking on doors in an old folks home saying, come on, everybody, take the bus.
Well, Heather, if you can go back to the chart of cities.
Yeah, all those partner cities.
You know.
Wait, I don't have that in this one.
Yeah, you know, the one with like Indianapolis.
That
and
one.
Yeah, there.
So Pittsburgh knows how to do that. So
Yeah.
let's call Pittsburgh and find out. Well, you want to take a look at the right-hand column.
Yeah.
And for every person that, all of those 1.4 million people that live in Pittsburgh, they spend $282 per person funding the transit.
Yeah.
And they have incredibly good ridership. Look at that, 63 million ridership compared to our 12 million riders.
Yeah, they also got.
And they ride it. The bus, they don't have any secret sauce. I mean, there's nothing secret. It's cold in Pittsburgh and it's snowing. It's harder to ride the bus there. But the bus comes every 5 minutes.
Right.
And in their main quarter from the University of Pittsburgh, I know it comes every 2 minutes. And there's no parking. There's no parking. The people don't own cars. And they just ride. But they have the funding. It's not a matter of us moving the bus from this street to this street in Dunedin and suddenly it'll be full. It has to come more than every hour.
Yep.
Or else only a very few folks, most of the folks that really have no other option, are going to take it.
Or folks that have all the time in the world. I ride the bus and I just, what's that joke? If you got time to spare, you know, I got time to spare, so I wait. Absolutely. I completely agree. It's the chicken and the egg. You know, you get more riders if they run more frequent, you get more funding if you get more riders.
Let's go to Elizabeth.
When these cities call up and say, we need more service, does anybody say, and where are we gonna get the money for that?
Oh, yes.
And that's what he's talking about. How are we gonna talk to people? What you were talking about. But come on, guys. They ask, I want, but they don't wanna give. It's just a, I think it was a good question.
And like I said, there is something later on our agenda that I'm hoping is going to help address this, but you know, it's a step in the right direction. All right, no other questions. So, do we have a motion to authorize PSA staff to hold public hearings on bus and paratransit service cuts? Do we have a motion? A motion from Elizabeth. Second. Second. All in favor of the public hearing starting, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries.
And again, we won't start those until after we get a feel of things at the funding workshop and after our board meeting at the end of the month. So don't need to forgive me. Don't go tell everybody the rights are about 5.
All right, we'll move on to our third action item, which is going to be we're going to have Sandra talking to us about some improvements coming along State Road 60 in Clearwater and the Memorial Interchange.
So many of the things that we do at PSTA is looking how regional investments affect us and our service and the residents of Pinellas County. The Department of Transportation is looking to improve the State Road 60 interchange, which is over in Tampa, where the airport is, where 60 comes into the Veterans and I-275 sort of all meet in the West Shore District. This has a very big effect on Pinellas County traffic and on our bus service going from Pinellas County to the airport and into downtown Tampa. So they have not programmed that interchange for construction. And we really need that as a regional partner. We need them to fix that interchange so that they can then their investment in the Howard Franklin Bridge, which does include a transit corridor, will really start to work from a regional system perspective. And so in order to get that project programmed, a number of agencies across the region and business organizations have written letters in support of advancing this project in the FDOT work program, the Florida Department of Transportation work program, which is also a very large document that lists all of their projects and prioritizes where they're putting their funding. So this is a very big deal on the regional side. We do have a number of issues in Pinellas County that are caused by this interchange, even though that interchange is not located within Pinellas County. So we are asking for the support of this committee, and we'll take this to the board to send a letter of support for this project based on its regional effect to the Department of Transportation to advance this project to construction.
Okay. Did anybody have any questions about the letter for the project? Dave?
To give another perspective on this, this is always coming up over in the MPO in Forward Pinellas, because this is one level above the MPO. This is now the regional MPO. And I think what you're talking about is the traffic jams that happen of all the folks going to the airport back up the Howard Franklin, which backups our 100s, and we can't get to the Marion Transit Center, and so we want to support this. The problem with this plan is FDOT is shoving it down everybody's throat. This is TVX, and we're not listening, and we're just going to do whatever we want. And so when we talk about reluctant approval, this is one of those. They said we wanted to clean up some of the lanes between downtown St. Pete and the Howard Franklin. They said, oh, we'll do that if you support a toll lane on the Howard Franklin. So we don't want that. We just want that. Well, you know, hey, give us that. So, well, we'd like you to clean up this interchange. Well, give us a toll lane on the Howard Franklin. They said, well, we don't want that either. That's okay. We'll just do the toll lane without it. And so FDOT, and the problem with the whole thing is that FDOT is just going to do what they want, and it, you know, anyway. So when we talk about reluctant approval, I am going to approve this in my personal vote. You guys do what's in your conscience, but I want you to know that is directly tied to Tallahassee shoving things down the throat of, in this case, Hillsborough County, which we're dependent on, but it is tied, what in Washington you call a poison pill. Do you want this bill? Well, you're going to have to also pay for this. And that's what we're getting. I'll be quiet now. How'd I do?
Does anybody else have any comments about going forward with the letter? Okay, do we have a motion to approve going forward?
I'll make that motion.
David?
Reluctantly.
Yes, reluctantly. Full of reluctance. Second from someone?
I second it.
Okay, Renee. And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye and opposed. Okay, the motion carries. All right, so we are done with our action items. Let's move on to some information items. First one is our yearly review of the bylaws and the Sunshine Law. Isabella from Bryant, Miller, and Olive will be speaking to us about the legalities of the bylaws and the importance of the Sunshine Law for all of us.
Hello again, everyone. Thank you for having me. Can I just get a show of hands? Who has sat through a Sunshine Law presentation before? Okay, so there's only so many ways you can do these, so I apologize if it's repetitive for you, but this is really, really, really important, just as a refresher for you all. And then for our new members, I would really, really urge you to pay attention, especially to our sunshine law aspects. They're very important for you to know and to follow. So in your materials, you should have your TRAC bylaws, as well as a handout about sunshine law. Those two, I would keep those in your personal records and and refer to them when need be. But so your bylaws are kind of like it's your roadmap to being on this committee. Maybe your constitution, or it's your governing document. It was adopted by the PSTA Board of Directors, and it really has the purpose of this committee, which is to provide recommendations to the PSTA board about ridership issues. And it also has the requirements for being a member on this board, as well as continuing to be a member of this board. So it addresses, Dave, your residency issues. Bylaws have comments on that. Also in your bylaws, very important, are the attendance requirements. To be part of this committee, you must attend 80% of the committee meetings. The bylaws state that if meetings are held regularly, that's no more than 4 missed meetings in a 2-year period. So keep that in mind, it's very important. Also, there's a lot of different things in your bylaws. The roles of your chair and your vice chair, roles and responsibilities. The chair will generally be, as he's been doing today, presiding over the meeting, calling agenda items and moving the discussion forward. Vice chair will fill in for the chair when need be. One thing in the bylaws, which I have found from advising several different public boards, is that you need to provide current contact information to your PSTA staff. I have been in a situation, not at PSTA, but in another public entity, scrambling to make sure we have a quorum because the contact information of our board members was not current. So please make sure you have current contact information to your staff members. It's in your bylaws, and it just makes life easier for everyone. You also have, quorum notice. You also have quorum notices, and so a quorum, which is in your bylaws, is the minimum amount of board members in a room at a meeting that is required to conduct business. So if you don't have enough members, you cannot conduct official TRAC business. So when you receive those emails, those quorum notices from, I believe it's Mary Ann, respond, under the bylaws you have to respond within 48 hours, and it's very important to do so because they have to make sure that it's a reasonable meeting time. If not enough people can come, they'll try to reschedule it, but it's not good for anyone if a meeting is set and there's not enough people to conduct, there's not a quorum, not enough people to conduct business. So that's very important. Those are some basic things that are found in your bylaws. If you're kind of wondering, if you're new and you're kind of wondering, well, how does this work? I'm not sure what what this is. I'm not sure, what I'm supposed to do. Your bylaws are a good reference, and then of course PSTA staff. So I will start to go into the sunshine law now, which is the most important part of my presentation, in my opinion. So PSTA is an independent special district. It is a public entity, and so all public boards have to meet in the sunshine and comply with sunshine laws. TRAC, because am I saying that right? Is it TRAC? Mm-hmm. Okay, I just want to make sure it's not a TRAC situation. TRAC, because it is a committee that provides recommendations to the PSTA Board of Directors, you are also, and every single one of our board members is subject to the sunshine law. So there are 2 parts of the sunshine law. We have first public meeting rules and requirements, and then public record rules and requirements. First, we're going to go into public meetings. So what is a public meeting? This is a public meeting. It's a meeting where there are 2 or more members of the same board or committee present, and you're discussing a matter on which foreseeable action will be taken. So this is definitely a public meeting. There are statutory requirements for a public meeting. It must be open to the public. So I'm not sure if we have any members of the public here today, but they are certainly welcome to be here. They will have notice of it. There must be a reasonable notice of the public meeting. I believe in your bylaws it is 7 days for a regular meeting and 3 days for an emergency meeting. Now typically, most board members don't have to worry about this. This will be taken care of by PSTA staff, but just giving you an idea of the statutory requirements. Minutes must be taken. PSTA staff is doing that now. And voting. So you must, if there's an item that you're voting on, like you have done, I think, twice today already, you have to vote unless you have a conflict of interest. Conflict of interest for this kind of board, the majority of the time, is going to be some kind of economic interest. So, for example, if you own a company that was going to provide comfy bus seats to PSTA and you were voting on that contract and you own that company, then that would be a conflict of interest and you need to abstain yourself from voting on that topic. If you believe you have a conflict of interest, before every meeting you should be looking at the agendas anyway. But if you see something that you think might be a conflict of interest, contact your PSTA staff and so we can get that sorted out. And you also cannot vote in secret. So even if something's controversial or you're not very excited to vote on it, you cannot vote by secret ballot. It has to be in the public, just like you've been doing, all in favor, yes, all opposed, that kind of thing. So public meetings must be accessed by the public. That includes public comment. So the public statutorily in these kind of meetings has the right to comment on the items on the agenda, or in some instances just to say what's on their mind. Public comment. So public meeting is not just what we're having here. So this is the archetype of a public meeting where it's been noticed, there's an agenda, you've received that agenda, all board members are here, there's a quorum, and you're discussing items in voting on items. So, however, a public meeting can also occur if there's any 2 members of the same board. So anyone in this room who is a member of this committee, and there's got to be 2 of you, and you're discussing anything that might foreseeably come before you for a vote, that is a public meeting, and it needs to take place in the public. That means any kind of TRAC business, really any kind of PSTA business, for if you are serving on this committee, needs to be discussed at official meetings, at official public meetings. So that means you're not to discuss TRAC business by phone, by text, by email, by commenting on Facebook. That is a violation of the public meeting laws. So it doesn't mean that you can't say hello to each other at the grocery store or go to each other's social functions. I would just highly recommend that if you are not in this official public meeting setting, that you talk about anything else besides official PSTA business. Whether it be your dogs, your family vacations, what have you, what you're buying at the grocery store, fine, but just not official PSTA business.
So Mark and Sue are standing at the bus stop in St. Pete. And Mark says, "What time is the bus coming?" Sue can answer. Okay, that's a fact. They can have that conversation. Who was your driver today? We can talk about that. You cannot say, "What do you think about Brad's suggestion that we make the 34 LX?" Cannot talk about that. So anything that you think might come before this committee is off limits unless it has been in a publicly noticed meeting. It's different with staff. You can talk to staff about things. You can ask questions about things. If Bonnie goes to Mark's New Year's Eve party, he can ask her a question, right? He can ask any one of us a question by email. The other thing is that you don't want to be sending emails to everyone. it is probably best that if you have a question or you just don't know and you want to find out, is ask somebody. Ask Mary Ann, ask Heather, ask me, ask Nicole, ask Juan, ask anybody here, and we will be able to help you navigate the Sunshine Law. It seems like it's a bit of a challenge, but it gets easier as long as you know what you can and cannot do. It's a little extreme, but if we do find that there is a sunshine violation, there are penalties, the least of which is removal from the committee. Is that?
Should I go?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so, exactly. So it only applies to 2 members of the same committee. So Brad is not technically on this committee, that's correct. So you could talk to him about official PSTA business. You could talk to Cassandra, Mary Ann about official PSTA business. Any staff members, you can talk about official PSTA TRAC business to anyone except for members of this committee if you're not in a public meeting.
Basically be transparent.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. The Sunshine Law is meant for the government, the state of Florida government, and local governments to be open to the public. So it's really meant as an anti-corruption mechanism. So it's all about our government, our legislative and all those kind of processes being open and available for the public, and it's not being done in secret. Yeah, so as Cassandra said, there's a fine line between, I'm with a member, Edwin and Kenneth, they're next to each other at the bus stop. You can, what bus are you going on? Okay, there's a difference, but there's a fine line, but there's a difference between, the bus is late and the bus is late, we should bring something up in TRAC in our committee to do something about why the bus is late. That would be, the second part would be a violation, saying, bus is late is not necessarily, is not a violation, but I would just encourage you to talk about anything else except for official business. Yes.
Got a question about drivers.
Yes.
That discuss things that are coming down the road. Is that inappropriate that they might bring that up?
As far as what I'm talking about, Sunshine Law for your committee, it is not inappropriate. It's not a Sunshine Law violation to talk to a bus driver about TRAC committee issues.
That person might bring something to me that I'm not aware of, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, so if that person brings something to you that you're not aware of, that's a perfectly kosher interaction in terms of the Sunshine Law. Now, if someone sends you an email about TRAC business or PSTA business, if a member of the public sends you an email, then we're going to get into public records territory. So I can get into that. So you see each other at the bus stop. Don't talk about official business. Don't talk about official business anywhere except for really in this room.
A driver might come to you and say, I hear you're on the TRAC committee. I would like Brad to, give me $1 million or something like that. And you should definitely say, thank you. I will bring that up at the TRAC meeting because that driver's not on TRAC. Right. Yeah. It's only the people that are around this table.
I'm just seeing it as a
guys, it's the opposite. I actually ask other passengers, I ask drivers, I ask people at the bus stop, hey, I'm on TRAC. What would you have me take back with me? It's just if we're sitting here together, we said, hey, at the next meeting, why don't you vote yes on such and such? That's where we get into trouble. But our job as ambassadors is to tell people what we've learned and to ask them what we should be doing, especially drivers. This bus should be running more often. They should give us longer pee breaks. Whenever we hear,
Yes, exactly. Any more? Do we have any questions about? I'm going to go into public records, but any questions about public meetings? Okay. So the second part. So we've talked about public meetings. The second part of the Sunshine Law are public records. So anything that is made or received, any record or document that is made or received in connection to official agency business is a public record that is subject to public inspection and copying. So that really could be any kind of document, but for your purposes, your public records are going to be your agenda items, your agenda packets, any materials that were received during during a presentation. Those are public records. You don't really have to worry about those. The PSTA staff already has all of those. One thing you really need to, and this might be, the one thing you really need to watch out for is if you are receiving emails about official TRAC or PSTA business, then that needs to be conserved for the public. So I suggest that if you get any emails about TRAC or PSTA from anyone, and it's on your official, it is on your personal email, not on PSTA email, that you forward to, because I think forward to Marianne. That way she can, she will be the custodian of it, so then you don't have to worry about it. If it's something that is on PSTA email, it's going to be on the PSTA server. That's my understanding, and it's going to be on on the PSTA server. However, if you get an email from the bus driver, from a concerned citizen, hey, I hear you're on TRAC. I really think that we need more lights in this certain shelter. What have you? Then you need to forward that email to Marianne. Are you the correct person for that, Marianne?
Yes.
Yeah. Then you need to forward that email to Marianne, so that then you don't really have to worry about it. You don't have to be the custodian. She will be the custodian for you. So I highly encourage you to not communicate about TRAC or PSTA business via text. I would keep it. The email is the best way, and to forward it or CC Marianne on it is the best way, and that way you don't have to worry about it. Any questions about that? So keep in mind, this is why I really encourage people not to text about official business. If you're texting with your neighbor about TRAC business, that technically needs to be a public record. That is a public record that should be conserved for the public. So trying to get that into a form that is inspectable and copyable is very, very difficult, and I wouldn't do it. I would just keep it, make it easy on yourself. Any questions about that? As Cassandra alluded to, there are there's significant issues, significant punishments for violating sunshine law, either public records or public meetings. If it's a inadvertent violation, again, you could get publicly removed from this board, but you could also get fines brought up to ethics committees. If it is a knowing violation, you can go to jail. So I would I encourage you to keep your handouts. If something feels wrong, if you're like, I don't think, if Renee and Chelsea are talking, and they're like, man, we're getting on the border, this doesn't feel, if your gut's telling you, maybe we shouldn't be talking about this right now, maybe we should save this for next month's meeting. I highly encourage you to go with your gut feeling. Of course, PSTA staff is here if you have a question. Marianne, Cassandra are great resources. Everyone I work with at PSTA has been absolutely great, responsive. So I definitely encourage you to use them as resources. If you're questioning yourself, you probably shouldn't do it. So just, and if you really, really want to do it, email staff and get another opinion on it. So public records, public meetings, definitely keep your handout, your sunshine law handout handy, your bylaws handy. I think those two are really great, really great places to make sure that you're serving your community in the way that you want to. So, and last of all, thank you so much for your service. I mean, you are a volunteer board, so thank you. You do take time out of your lives to do this, and you really are doing a public service. So thank you so much. Any questions? Okay. Thank you all.
All right, thank you, Isabella. All right, we'll move on to our last information item, which is going to be the 2019 initiatives. Bob last year was not able to be here today. He had to go out to a meeting in Clearwater. So we will be working with Nicole on setting up pretty much what our goals are. What do we want to accomplish as a board in this calendar year?
Yes.
So Nicole, I'll let you start.
Wonderful. Thanks, Mark.
This is what Mark has been alluding to for parts of the meeting, talking about how you can really help PSTA and support PSTA in the things that we want to do in our community. So essentially, we want to brainstorm in this meeting a few ideas, really what you all would like to focus on for your 2019 year. Last year, we hosted a special workshop for our TRAC members, for you all who were here last year, to discuss different ideas and issues that you see as transit riders and that you want to address, really. Last year, you honed in on our detour communications. How do you find out about detours? How are we communicating them externally? And you also asked about cleanliness of our shelters. So one of the things that we did is we brought in our Director of Marketing and Communications as well as our Transportation Director so that they could let you know our process, what is reasonable for us to work on, and essentially how we currently communicate detours and thinking about ways that we can improve that. And that's still something that we are thinking about. And we also brought in our Director of Maintenance to talk about our shelters and cleanliness of our shelters. So we want to make sure that we address the different issues that you all bring up. The other initiative that you all took on last year was our TRAC Star Award. Essentially, this award is for businesses, companies, agencies, organizations who really step up and increase accessibility to our bus stops and for you all to be able to access the bus stops in a easy, pedestrian-friendly way. You all awarded 5 different entities last year, including Publix, Walmart, the City of Clearwater, the City of Pinellas Park, as well as PNC Bank for the different improvements that they made to increase transit accessibility. And this year, our new chair, Mark, has some really good ideas on how to support PSTA, but today we really want to hone in on just some things that you all think are really important to you. And then in the next meeting, you all will be voting on the issue that you really want to focus on for 2019, in addition to continuing on with the TRAC Star Award. That's a really great way to recognize our communities for the work that they're doing to increase transit access, so that's something that we want to continue to promote. So we alluded to a few of those ideas while we were talking. You know, how can you be ambassadors to our service? So I'll let Mark talk a little bit about what he had in mind.
Right. So most importantly, there's no way I could have let the STAR program die, so we had to keep that going. For the new people on the board, if you are riding around town and you're at a bus stop and you're like, wow, it's like they built a new plaza on 4th Street, or they're remodeling something on 4th Street, and you see that they made it easier for you to walk from the bus stop and get up a ramp into their business or parking lot, and they incorporated transit into their planning. You know, we want to award them and say, you know, you're helping make Pinellas a better, more transit-friendly county. So we do have an award that we do give out. So in fact, like I need to talk to Marianne about giving out an award for someone over in West St. Pete. The other thing that I've always advocated for on TRAC, and PSTA is already starting with this, is the LX service. 52, we already have a 52 LX, which is limited stop. It's very beneficial to people who work along the 49th Street corridor in St. Petersburg and Clearwater. And it makes it so much easier to get out of St. Pete and up to Clearwater, or continue on, you know, past like 49th Street up to East Bay. We do know that that is expanding, so that's something I'd really like us to promote. But as I alluded to before, we need to promote a lot more for PSTA. And I think it's time for us to take the responsibility into maybe a little bit of our hands and become ambassadors of PSTA. If we see places that need to know about services that run right in front of their business or community and they're not tapping in with it, you know, we can call Nicole, we can call Juan, and I've called them many times and been like, hey, can we go out to this place and put out some brochures? And they like having the schedules there, and we'll talk to people about it. The other initiative for me, living in downtown St. Petersburg, is I'd like to, you know, work together more with things like the Grand Central District, the Edge District, about making St. Petersburg a car-free community. Many of you in here said before about, you know, why is the ridership so high in Pittsburgh? What are they doing that's the magic wand? Well, they convince people to abandon their vehicles. Will we get to that in St. Pete? I don't know. But I can tell you from my personal experience, from my friends, the biggest complaint that they have is, do you know how far away I had to park today? Did you know that PSTA would let you write off right in front? Yeah, so we need to like start putting that in our minds that, like, you know, if you don't want to park far away in St. Pete or pay the outrageous prices, you know, you need to be able to tell your people, well, if you took route so-and-so, you can get right from your house right here without, just like that. And also, this also, for some people, because they don't live on a bus route, would mean they would have to possibly tap into our Direct Connect servers. So I think what our initiative, what my goal as an initiative is that we take all of this and umbrella it together, that's not easy to say, and show that there are ways that we can tell people that they can get from their homes to where they want to go without usage of a car, especially if they live in St. Petersburg. Now, this is where I'm going to tap into my North County people. You know, I don't get up there very often, unfortunately. How can we also promote this up there? So this is kind of the direction that I would like to go in.
I have a question.
Yes, Brian.
Does the park and ride off of, I think it's Starkey and Ormerton, does it exist, or did you do away with it? The park and ride? It's still there? Okay, because I wasn't absolutely sure that they were still using those services for the 300X. It's still there, okay.
Yeah, so really what Mark is sort of talking about, so I'll be taking notes over here on the computer, but transit ambassadors, that's something that we talk about. Juan and I and Bob Lasher, who's not here today, we're only 3 people on our outreach and external affairs team. We're the ones that really go out to our communities and talk to folks about our services. And there's only 3 of us, so we can only be in so many places at one time. So if that's something that you all are interested in, you all ride our service. You are great advocates for PSTA. So that's one of the things that I just put up there, called you transit ambassadors.
So let's focus on just shouting out some ideas of things you want to know about, things you want to explore, and then at our next meeting, we can dig a little bit deeper on what they mean or how we might help you do those things. Let's take about 10 minutes because we don't want to go too much into our...
I'd like to see us working on expanding Direct Connect. For instance, Tyrone Mall is not, for some reason, in that program. And there are times that it would be very helpful for me. I've talked up the Direct Connect to people complaining about, well, they can't get from here to there for some of the Direct Connect places, but I can't do that with the Tyrone area.
Right. And with where I live in St. Petersburg, in Kenwood, the obvious stop for that's not a Direct Connect stop now is Grand Central.
Other ideas?
Any other ideas that you think that we need to focus on? Yes.
This may sound like an outrageous idea, but I take the bike. I use my bike to put on the bus. Now is what I was thinking. A lot of people are riding their bikes lately and catching the buses, and sometimes I feel kind of sad because when the bus pull up, it's 2 bikes on the way. So I was like thinking, what if they just added a third spot to make it a, you know, I know hopefully it won't get in the way of the driver, but just a third rack, and I don't think it would be that heavy to lift it up and just, you know, for that one person, and they already see 2 bikes, it's like, dang, I gotta wait. Just a third rack, and I was just putting it out there to see if that'd be a possibility.
Okay.
We had that though, and I think the maneuverability and all became a problem. Because I remember the 3 bike ramps on like a
It is a safety issue, and the Florida DOT does not allow a 3 bike rack thing. We've looked into it, but what we're looking at doing on our bus rapid transit route along us in St. Petersburg is putting up hooks inside the bus for a lot more. So there's a lot more spaces for bikes. You take your bike, you hook your bike up inside the bus.
I think that'd be
It's a good idea, though.
That would be good.
Yes, Brian.
Got a question about, I live by Largo Commons that was just built. I know in Countryside Mall, and in, where is it? Pinellas Park, they got the estimated times. I know it's gonna be expensive. But is that gonna be in the works for Laurel Commons to have the times for the buses to know when they're coming, or is that gonna be not part of the budget? We can't afford to put up the
electronic board.
The electronic board.
Yeah. It's not part of the current budget, but
that's what I thought.
Thanks to your all-powerful position on this TRAC board, you can advocate for that, and then we can, if you are an expert politician, you can get your way.
Gotcha.
And we can look into it.
Yeah.
We'll look into it.
But let's definitely bring something to you all about real-time options and how that works within PSTA, and we do have planned times. Good.
Okay.
One thing I was thinking of earlier when Deborah brought up like she works by like the old folks home. I don't remember which one.
Oh,
I'm
no,
sorry.
actually, it's Mediterranean Manners. It's got a lot of elderly in it.
Okay, it's just a community with a lot of elderly.
But
Okay,
it's huge.
Right. But I was thinking one of the reasons that I've run into, I work really close to Toby Weinman, Philip Benjamin Tower, which is like a senior living community. I will sometimes run into seniors who hang out in the bus shelter, but I'll ask them, "Oh, which bus are you waiting for?" They're like, "Oh, I'm just sitting here. I don't know where the bus goes." Like I've run into several folks who just don't know where the route goes because like they take the like paratransit maybe like the direct ride, but they don't have any idea. So this is another like budget thing. But like, if it would be possible in more of the bus shelters to just put up like route maps, like if more shelters had those. That was a thing that was helpful in Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that at some point PSTAs no longer had the paper copy maps available, which is fine if you're using your apps and everything, but for the parts of the population that just aren't as tech savvy or aren't doing that, it's sort of like there's a gap. I think that might be why.
I think it would be, especially with the elderly, I think that's a gap.
No, I think it would be an absolutely great idea to actually go out and talk to, like especially a large community that has like a community center, whatever, you can sit there and explain it, because I really see people who, oh, there goes the bus. I mean, I get the, is that your bus, Deb? But it's not, they don't know where it's going. But especially if you've ever been on Bayshore Boulevard, there's one bus and the trolley, that's it. And it goes all the way to Tarpon Springs, so, I mean, but they see it, but they don't know where it goes, that kind of thing. So if you explain to them, especially when you have a large community where there's a lot of people that come to visit over the summertime, they can go to the beach and everything else with a bus, I mean.
Right, and our beach communities, our beach we do have a representative on the board for the beaches. Unfortunately, Terry cannot be here with us today, but you do give us a good example of there's a different beach perspective rather than city perspective. The city people have this idea of like parking has become an issue in St. Petersburg as development has grown, and you guys are seeing it out there as well. Same issue, different way.
Yeah, definitely. So we've got to somehow get it out there that it's a lot easier to go to the beach. Talk about parking. It's a lot easier to go to the beach with a bus than it is to actually, drive and pay for parking and find something.
I would definitely agree. Do we have any, Dave?
You're reminding me of something I advocated for last year, which were cartoon-esque style maps, like you get for the New York subway or the Washington subway, rather than being physical, that were centric to where you're sitting. So if you're at Grand Central, these are the routes that go out. I don't need to know that it went down 3rd Street to 5th Street, but this one goes to Tyrone, this one goes to Gulfport, this one goes to... And if, as you're moving around the system, you're given these kind of spider web looking maps, you sort of orient. That's how I orient. I don't know if everyone else does, but if I was new. Listen, the thing that I want to talk about, and I do this at the MPO, and I think it's impossible, but if we were going to advocate, and the cat may be out of the bag already, is transit-oriented development. We look at 19, they just built a 500-unit apartment complex on Nursery Road, every single one of them car-oriented. There was no penalty to anyone for doing that. Why did they not say your first parking spot is free, you want a second parking spot, it's $10,000? If you're not taking the bus, then you need to pay for the fact that you just filled 19. We spent how many $1 billion building US 19? We run the 19 up and down there, we can't get any users, so we have to cut another line. Why are we allowing, as a master planning organization, people to build non-transit development? Oh, surprise, nobody's using the bus. Why did we let people build 2 giant self-storage buildings at the corner of 34th and Central Avenue, a block to every transit route in the middle that nobody lives in? The most prime. Why did someone say we want to build storage unit? No, put low-income housing there. Why did we not say you can do it? The tax is $1 million that we're going to take and give to the buses because nobody can live near this. Because the planning organization doesn't understand that the land has value to people, not what is it worth? What is it worth? What can I make on it? That's what I would advocate. And what we're advocating is transit-oriented development and the social value of land, and where that's going to get is
Okay. Do we have, Dave, I hear your pain, I was right there, so. That's all the truth.
I'm all done.
If anyone has, if you come up with something else and you want to throw it up on the list, please email Nicole or Mary Ann, and they can put it on your agenda for next time. We'll sort of noodle on some of the things that you've mentioned, and if you send some other things, we'll think about those, and then we'll give this back to you in a format next time that you can have a deeper discussion about what of these items you would like to move forward with, because there's some things that might be information items that could come to the committee for a one-time discussion, and there's other things that could be multi-phased initiatives for you, like the Star Award from last time. So if you do think of something in the next week or so, please don't hesitate to reach out to staff and put it on the list.
And thank you all for your ideas. I mean, I never thought I would see express bus service in Pinellas County when I first got on this board. Now, me and Cassandra are like the poster children for it. All right. Anything else that we would like to do for the good of the order? Liz? Elizabeth?
I just want to show off that you can call up and politely squawk and things get done. I did that with the city of Largo. There was one on the sidewalk to get to the gym of LA Fitness it's redone Tri-City Mall. It turns out it's not a Largo street. It's a unincorporated street. But made a phone call, they made a phone call, they got a hold of whoever is in charge of that part of the sidewalk, and they filled it in. I went there the other week. Pool chair lift still doesn't work, but anyway, that's a different story. But I saw somebody else in a wheelchair go down that sidewalk, and I thought, my goodness, is she gonna make it or is she gonna fall off the edge? It was filled in, and I took pictures. And yes, and I sent it. So politely squawk, and things get done. So I don't know who did it, but it wasn't City of Largo.
And we can't, especially to new people, we can't say enough about this STAR program. You get more folks with honey than with vinegar.
Yes.
If you see something good, we're going to end up giving them a certificate and a picture with the mayor and, I don't know, a little cup and a pat on the head. It's nice to say, attaboy, good job, thank you for taking into account that bus stop, that ramp, that ADA compliant. Even if you did it begrudgingly, you did it, here's a certificate, thank you, put this decal in your window. Yeah, so if you see anything in this county, north to south, east to west, make that call, bring it here, we follow it up.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We will see you at our February meeting. I can't believe it's already February. And then that's it. Have a good day.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dave, I know that the planners are trying to figure out a way to stop the self-storage. Well, they're going everywhere.
I really belong to a
Downtown, right next to Channel Side.
One of our accountants
resident.
is
Well,
it's a conservative.
the
The strain of the preschool.
How much you want to put? Yeah, I can tell. Egg, no, I'm leaving, goodbye. Is it?
So, Alexa,
Cost? Goodbye.
but,